Okay, I've got Steve Blair here with me. Steve, you're how old now?
I'll be 69 here in a couple months.
Okay, so I asked Steve up here because I had a bunch of people on the internet telling me, once you get older, you're just going to start swinging slower and slower. And your swing speed, we just measured it this morning. We just did a quick little lesson. You were averaging about 85 miles an hour, and then we peaked at what?
It's like 101.
101. So I told Steve I could get him over 100 miles an hour in 30 minutes, but he made a liar of me. It took me 32 minutes.
Well, that's because I had to take a restroom break.
So we're gonna call it 30 minutes. But oh, come on, 100.
100.
We did it. How long did it take?
I don't know.
We started at 10. 10:32.
It's almost 101.
100.9 in 32 minutes.
Oh man.
So what is that? 14 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So about 3 yards per. It's over 40-yard difference. Is that going to change your game a little?
Yes. Huge. It's going to be huge.
Foot and hip. You tried to muscle that one a little.
A little bit.
251 yards.
99.6 though. But what was the biggest? Now, obviously, so we picked up 16 miles per hour, and that's going to be 45 yards off the tee. What kind of difference is that going to make in your game?
It's going to be a huge difference for my game. I play with a lot of younger guys, and like I said, they could build a super Walmart between my ball and theirs, and I think that gap's going to narrow.
Yeah, we had some on the launch monitor carrying 250.
Yeah.
And so, but the bigger thing is what were the things that you took away from that 30 minutes of versus how you used to swing and what we started doing?
That I wasn't really using my muscles correctly. I wasn't stretching them like I should have been, getting in the right positions. And once you got me in the right positions, I could feel the stretch, what you were supposed to stretch to release the club. And it made a huge difference on.
Okay, so like most golfers who, especially as they get older or just never learned good mechanics, your impact position and your setup position look very similar. See how your knees and your hips and everything are basically dead square, right? And so this is what happens when we try to just muscle the club with our arms and shoulders. And this is why there's just not going to be any way, unless you either get younger or really strong, there's just not enough way. There's not a way to generate a club head speed like that. So what we're going to do is get you to start using your body correctly and get your arms to take a little bit more of a nap so that we start getting you more open at impact, because this is going to make it so that you can use your big muscles. What when you're talking about the muscles that you use, like what was the biggest difference? Because I'm going to show your swing on the screen, which you tended to kind of do what most golfers do, which is kind of take the club, push it across where you swing really flat and your head's kind of off the ball. And you said you did that because you felt like you needed to hit up on the ball, but it got your spine so out of position that you couldn't stretch.
I could not stretch them till you got me in the right position. Then I felt I could feel it stretch all the way back, my shoulder to my neck. And when I got it wanted to release right. I've been doing it wrong so long, but it just started coming down right. I don't know, it was just a way different feel than I've ever had on golfing. And as I saw, I was more centered, and it was easier on my body. I just had to make the right turns. It took a little while to get me in the right spots because I've been doing it so wrong for so long.
Okay, so Steve, like most golfers, you tended to stay in flexion. And this is what causes most people's heads to move off the ball and, not have any power and so on. So when we look at you at the top, you weren't too bad here, but you were definitely not getting into extension. But now, as we worked on extension, that's a massively different position there, right?
Yes.
And so again, a lot of golfers think they can't make a full shoulder turn because they think they're not flexible enough. It has nothing to do with it. A lot of times it's because they're trying to turn their shoulders. If you look over here on the right.
Yeah, I've never turned this far before.
Yeah, exactly. It's because you were trying to turn. You don't turn. You go into extension and side bend, like we just talked about. And that's what got you perfectly stacked over the ball lower body looks way better. And then the big thing is, what did you feel on the way down?
I felt like spring was just wanting to let loose.
Exactly. So you were able to uncoil way faster.
Yeah, I wanted to go.
And that's why this is so important versus this. You can see a massive difference when somebody is just trying to swing the club with their arms versus getting the body movements correct. The key for you, like for most golfers, especially older golfers, they want to stay in flexion with their spine. And so we moved you into side bend and extension, and that made, like, immediately, I have the numbers on, I'll put them on the screen, but I think when we were just focusing on the trail, hip, leg, foot complex, we went from like 85 to 95. And then when we got your spine to load, that's when we broke 100. Was getting you into side bend, into extension, I think.
Yeah, I've never felt that before. I didn't know I needed to be there. Now I know, and I can get there.
Yeah, that is super important because as you stay in flexion, your head's gonna have to move off the ball if you're gonna load up for any power, because there's no place else for your head to go. So that's what got you looking like a tour pro at the top, was just those two simple little corrections, is understanding you cannot stay in flexion with your spine. And that's intuitive for a lot of people to do, to stay in flexion, because it's a more powerful position to be in if you're gonna use your arms and hands, which is what you're doing. But then I got you using the impact bag, and then you started to get the feeling of like using your core, and that was you could hear the difference in the impact bag strike.
Yeah, that I could feel that. When you went to the impact bag, I could feel like my right shoulder was staying back more.
Yeah.
Right then, instead of me trying to use my arms with it, I was doing it the correct way, and it was really popping that impact bag.
That's a big difference in how your right shoulder has to work. So I've talked about this a little bit before on a previous podcast, but essentially when you're in this GDP position, it's going to feel like, and you said it perfectly, I think the first swing you made like this, you're like, I feel like the club's coming in late, right? And that's because you're used to rushing it down as fast as you can. But when you do it right, you feel like you have time. Like if the club's coming in, as you put it, late or later, obviously you can come in too late, but that's more of a high handicap or a low handicap player problem. But once you stayed back there, that's when you felt like you could really drive your body, use your whole body to hit the ball.
Yeah, I never felt that before. It felt like the club was lagging behind me, and then pretty soon it just whipped into place.
Yeah, that's the key, is that all of this stuff, this is one of the other really big things I think that was super important for you, is you kind of woke your body up. You've kind of been, it's been in sleeping for a while. You didn't realize you could move that fast.
No.
Like getting your foot and your knee and your hip and all of that stuff to trigger really quickly. And then we talked a little bit about the hands, and I was just having you shake your hands out, and just doing that alone, people don't realize how quickly your wrist can snap because they're trying to control it. And when you do it right, there's really no controlling this motion. It's something that's just whipping through. And I think you started to get a feel for that as we got over 100 miles an hour. So the big thing for you when you go back is I wanted to start kind of priming your nervous system, as I talked about, because if we do everything really slow, then you're going to move really slow. You have to. Golf it's underrated in how explosive of a sport it is. I think we kind of think of guys who are really strong, big, tall guys generating a lot of speed, but the long drive guys today are very explosive and very quick. And as you get older, as you lose the muscular power to be able to generate force, you have to learn how to have better technique. But just by moving more quickly, you're going to be able to pick up speed, but it doesn't take any more effort. It's just quickness. And I think you started to get a feel for that.
Yeah, I started to feel what you meant, not try to power it, but just to move quick. Just by moving quick, it made my body move quick. And I was surprised by that, how much difference that made when I snapped that right knee in there. And it made a lot of difference getting up on that toe, but not pressuring it, but just moving it fast.
100%. That's the exact way.
I mean, it wasn't an effort. It was just learning how to move it. I have to wake up my fast twitch. Exactly. Start moving a little quicker.
Exactly. And I think that's where so many golfers feel like they've got to muscle it. I don't know a better word for it, but it's just kind of what it feels like. Is you're just trying to use small muscles to try and move something really heavy, really slow. And I like to think about moving something really light, really fast. That's what the golf swing is. And so when I train in the gym, I'll do some heavy lifting, but most of the stuff I do is moderately heavy weights, and I move it as quickly as I can. So when I do bench, I'm not worried about keeping very perfect, strict, slow form. I'm going
because that's what the golf swing is. It's quickness, it's speed, and it's not about how much muscle you can feel like you're using in your swing, like you're using in a squat or a deadlift. It's how quickly can you move that weight. And that's really what I was trying to emphasize with you, of getting that foot to fire up onto that big toe immediately, the knee to snap, the hip to snap, because when you did that, it brought you into the perfect impact position every time.
It was amazing. I'd never felt that before. And I'm anxious to work on all that, what you showed me, because I feel I can relax a little more and be able to, I was a little tense and really fire those things I was supposed to.
Yeah, we crammed this in. 30 minutes to pick up 45 yards off the tee is kind of is a stretch, right? But I knew you had to think about a lot of things too.
I have never swung the club that fast before ever in my life, even.
No kidding.
Younger, so.
That's awesome.
So that was the first time I've reached that.
So I think if you put a week into this, you're going to start, because again, we did 30-minute crash course, boom, boom, boom. And then you're still having to mechanically, anybody that's ever made a swing change in their life knows you've got to think through these things. It takes a while, but you're able to get the feeling. And then we went into the gym and I did that goat drill exercise with you. What did that feel like to you?
That was an eye opener for me, because I realized how much my core was crunching down to start the swing, and that my arms really weren't doing anything. It showed me they're just there once I crunched down properly.
Okay. Fire the right side, load it, and fire it. Good.
It just took them down to the ball, and that was pretty eye-opener for me on that drill.
That is super important because, one, it teaches you to start loading the fascia. And we talked a little bit about this, but a lot of people don't really understand how that works. But they think that your arms should be like syruply loose, like the muscles in your arms should be syruply loose. But when you did that goat drill, it's not possible, because then arms are gonna collapse. And that's the same thing is true in the swing. If you try to keep your arms super relaxed, some people can do it, but it's very difficult for most. What I wanna actually do is actually keep them relatively stiff, because that's gonna help me load my fascia and my core. But if my arms are like this, you felt it. I had you do that a couple times, you lost all that right side loading, right?
Right. Yeah, I had to learn to keep my right arm a little more extended.
Yep.
And that was a different feel, but once I started to get the feel of it, I really noticed a difference on how I was able to get that fascia muscles to really tighten. It could feel it through even as old and tight as these muscles are, I could feel them working again.
Well, you could feel immediately, once I got your arms to stay lengthened so that you start loading this fascia, because one thing that people don't really understand about the fascia is that it needs to be loaded extremely quickly. The faster you can load it, the faster it's going to rebound. And there is a very limited amount of energy that's stored in that mitochondria before it wants to go back. So if you're kind of slow in how you load it, it doesn't have that rebound effect. But if you load it very quick and let it fire back really quick, it happens automatically. But to do that the tissue has to literally be stretched, and it has to be done under tension. So like a lot of times when people jump, like if you ever watch somebody do a jump rope, you'll see somebody who's kind of like their knees are bending a lot and their hips are bending, and they don't have like a springiness to them. Somebody who's really good at doing jump rope, I'm a huge proponent of doing jump rope because it'll help you start to be able to fire up onto that big toe like we talked about, that the tendons actually have to be stiff. And the stiffer they are, so when I do a jump rope, I don't try to let my foot set, like if this is my toe and this is my heel, I don't try to let it set and then my knee bend and all of the soft collapsing, which is kind of what you were doing in your swing to begin. Uh-huh. I try to keep my foot and my ankle very stiff, and I bounce like a kangaroo. And so now as I do this, as my heel starts to go down, that tendon gets loaded and then it springs. But if I'm soft with it, there's no springiness. Oh, okay. And that's why, like I was even telling you, like coming up the stairs here, like get a feel for keeping these things tight, and you'll start to spring and bounce. And it's something that it's built into our body. It does this naturally, but that's what makes golfers who make the swing look truly effortless, is that they're springing back so fast, but it's not by loading muscles and keeping them syrupy soft. I'm keeping them tight, I'm loading those tendons and those ligaments, and then letting them snap. And that's what I was trying to get you to feel as you were going into the goat drill, is that if you keep this soft, you immediately destroy all that tension. But if you keep it rigid and you do it very quickly, you're going to feel all of these tissues load and unload, and it does it for you. And I think you felt that a few times.
I felt it right away when I started to turn. I could feel that. What was I going into extension? Is that?
Yep.
I felt myself going into extension right away, or just, 6 inches off the ball. I felt it, which I'd never felt before. And then it just kept increasing to the point where I couldn't go anymore.
And then you just let it go, right?
Yeah.
And that was the key, because you're like, most golfers kind of like let this trail arm fold a little early, or they even kind of pick the club up. And as soon as you do that, like you've got the club all the way up here, but none of this is loaded.
Didn't feel any of that when I did that.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's the important thing, is that it's very difficult for people to really understand how to generate speed using your core, because it's such an abstract thing, because unless you're doing sit-ups and all sorts of core exercises, most people don't have a real good sense of what this engagement feels like. But that goat drill gives you the feeling of automatically loading and opening up these intercostal muscles in your serratus to be able to lengthen as much as you can, so then it just fires for you.
Yeah.
And that's what makes golf fun, 'cause it's at nearly 70 years old, you can still carry the ball 250 or more, and this was again just 30 minutes of work.
Oh, I'm excited, yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited to seeing you out there hitting the ball this far this summer. Yeah. So we'll have some good times together. But any other closing thoughts of what you felt or what you learned today? Again, I know it was a 30-minute crash course, but
I mean, I felt like I'm on the path. Instead of, like I told you earlier, I've been trying different things, go along for a few holes, then tried it something else, and nothing was working. But what you gave me today is something that I can just build on. I know exactly what I need to do and go through it, and I felt it, and so I know how to get there, and that's why I'm excited to get back out there now.
Awesome. Well, that's what it's all about, right? We got to enjoy this game, and I just want to make it clear to people that just as you get older, of course, there's certain things that you're going to lose. Like, I'm not going to be able to swing at 130 miles an hour when I'm 70 years old, most likely. Although I'm going to try.
Yeah, you might be able to.
I'm going to fight it to the end. Steve, you've seen me hit some couple of long balls out there, but I want to see what's possible, because the reality is the better your technique gets, the less dependency you are on your flexibility and your strength and your coordination, all these things. But the technique is not rocket science. It was really just getting you to load and fire things and let the swing happen for you, instead of you trying to make things happen, which is where you lose all your power.
Well, one more thing is I bought a swing caddy, and I was, working on my speed with it. And I was going to send it back because I didn't think it could be right that I was swinging like 80, 82, And so when you came up here and put me on yours, it was the same.
Yeah.
Until you worked me over, and then all of a sudden a light bulb came on, and it was pretty amazing.
The launch monitor and the video camera are oftentimes not our best friend, to tell the truth a lot, but it's so important that you measure things. And I think that's the one biggest thing that I see that every single amateur, I'm at the range all the time at different golf courses, and nobody ever videos their swing and they don't measure. The reason I use the swing caddy, I've had TrackMans and GC quads. I've had every launch monitor pretty much ever made since 2007, I think. But I keep that in my bag because it doesn't weigh anything. I can keep it in my bag, I can throw it on there, the battery lasts forever. And so every time I'm on the range, I don't use it every single day, but like if I'm working on something, I want to know, am I swinging faster or slower? Now, sometimes I make a change, and because I'm having to mentally think through it, I'm swinging a little bit slower. But in general, if I'm making a change, I want to see productivity right away. I want to see results. Did I feel more effortless or less effortless? And did it actually produce a real number, versus just people relying on their feel, because that's just such a waste.
That's what I was doing, but I wasn't getting the numbers weren't coming up. I was trying different things, and the numbers were not moving.
They stay the same.
They stayed the same. I thought I was doing something different, but I wasn't, until today.
That's the difference. Is like, again, if you don't measure and you don't video, then and you're just relying on feel, you will probably spend the rest of how long have you been playing golf?
Well, since I was in my 30s, so
40, almost 40 years, 35, 40 years.
Yeah.
And you just now got to the point where you can break 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, I just wish I would have run across you sooner. 20 years ago would have been helpful.
It's never too late, Steve. It's never too late. But if you video your swing, and again, part of the problem is people just don't really know what they're looking at, right? Yeah. And that's why in the GOAT code stuff, as you get into the 80, all of the stuff on the website now is showing you exactly where the club should be, what it should look like. And I'm putting up overlays of my swing and Tiger's swing, so you're starting to be able to see that, but you'll start to understand what's causing these issues. And a lot of it really just starts from the fundamental of how you're moving your core and your spine, right? Like if you're not moving into side bend and extension, all bets are off, right? You have to muscle the club then. So, but if you're on the site and you're going through the program, you'll see that like literally I'm showing you within millimeter detail of what's going on. So you need to know what to look for. Videoing your swing and not knowing, it's like having a launch monitor and not knowing what any of these club path and angle of attack numbers mean. But
and even when you got me doing the first part of the swing right, and I still reverted back to some of my old stuff, it still was way faster than before by just getting the first start of it right. I was still able to recover and hit a decent shot, but nothing like I could do when I keep it all together. Like
that's the magic potion, right? Like you get all the technique together and then just everything happens. And we've all felt that. You've felt the shot where it just seemed like the ball rocketed off the face and you did nothing. And that to me is golf. Like that is the whole reason why I do this. I spend all day on the range when I'm out there because I just want to hit as many of those shots as I can. Those shots that just do something that seems almost mystical or magical. And I think that's kind of one of the things that's the thing I love the most about golf is it's like a magic trick. Like you watch somebody do a magic trick, like how on earth did he do that? And then once you understand how to do it, then it's way more fun because you can reproduce it over and over again. And that to me is what I'm always trying to do with my swing. And what I want you to be able to do is I want to carry it 250 every time off the tee. I really want you to be able to carry the ball 250 every time. And now you know how to do it. And it's just putting those reps in to be able to practice, to be able to fire it. So
yeah, thanks, Chuck. I appreciate it a lot.
Absolutely, man. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
I'm gonna get there. I got a feeling.
Well, you're already there. Now my goal so I gave Steve some stuff to work on to take home. Again, we spent 30 minutes just getting like the nuts and bolts in it, and then I went to have him take it home and practice on his own. And then, in a week or two, a couple of weeks, I got to go to town for a bit. But when you kind of feel like you've got these movements down, I want to get you to 108. So we maxed out at 101 today, and 108 is the slowest speed on the PGA Tour. It's Matt Kuchar and Zach Johnson, Masters winner, swinging 108. You're 7 miles an hour away from being able to swing like a Masters winner at 69 years old. Yeah. So I think we can get you. My goal is to get you over at least 108, but I have higher aspirations for you too.
Well, I just, like I said, my launch monitor, I never moved. It never moved and you got me to move here.
15 miles an hour, this is a lot. That's
it was a lot for me.
All right, man. We'll get home, get some practice, start getting that nervous system fired up, and then we'll see you in a couple weeks and see where you're at.
Thanks again.
All right, buddy. Thanks so much.